first inning. I get in the batter's box. I dig in. I relax as much as I can. I remember to hold the bat loose in my hands. And I look out at the mound and I say, come on, pitch. Show me what you got. I'm ready. All it takes is 3 bases, home plate, bat, ball, and glove. That's it. Whether you're a little leaguer playing baseball or an old man playing slow pitch softball, a major leaguer in $1 million ballpark, or young girls playing fast pitch softball. In fact, if you haven't seen a 12 and under girls fast pitch softball game, you have missed out on one of the joys of life. Because see, they're very competitive, but they also have these chants like, I had a rubber ducky and his name was Fred. He rooted for the other team, so I bucked him in the head. But don't do what I did. I said to one of those 12-year-olds, those chants you do are so cute. And she looked at me like I had thrown a fastball at her head. And she said, they're not all cute. But they really are. I am a baseball romantic. I have things happen to me in baseball that I don't even always get it. I don't always understand what happens to me. And I didn't talk to anybody about it for a long time until I realized there are other baseball romantics out there. I had a friend of mine come up to me and he says, I was at a high school game the other night. And I wasn't watching the pitcher and I wasn't watching the batter. I was just taking in the whole field. And I realized that when the pitcher threw the ball, all the fielders moved at the same time. And then he says, it was beautiful. Baseball romantic. About 10 years ago, I was at Fenway Park in Boston. And I got there early and I'm visiting with a young man who had just found out that his firstborn was going to be a boy. And he says to me, I know which aisle I'm going to walk down with my son at his first game to maximize his experience of being there for the first time. Baseball romantic. And sometimes there are what I call these collective baseball romantic moments. It was August the 30th of 1980. I looked it up. And it was the game between the Kansas City Royals and the Texas Rangers. And it was the last game that Kansas City was going to play in Texas that year. That was the year that George Brett was trying to finish the season with a batting average over 400. Now to give you a little historical perspective on this, the last player to hit over 400 for an entire major league season was Ted Williams in 1941. So George comes into town. He's already played 3 games. He's got to hit it each of the first 3 games. He comes to the game that I'm at. He doesn't get a hit. As he's running back to the dugout after that last out, the fans around home plate started standing and applauding. And then the fans by them, they saw what was going on and they started standing and applauding. Until finally, every person in that ballpark was giving George Brett a standing ovation. And he had just failed. But what they were saying was, we respect your effort. We respect what you're trying to do, because he didn't bat 400 that year. He hit 390. But that's an example of what I call a collective baseball romantic moment. I found baseball in 1949. My mother and father and I moved from Apache, Oklahoma to Lawton, Oklahoma. And we moved to the south side at 614 McKinley. My father sold Hudson automobiles, and my mother was a grade school teacher. And across the street, and about 4 houses over at 607 McKinley, is where Tommy and Johnny Bateman lived. Now, if you're a baseball fan, you may have heard of John Bateman. He actually had a 10-year career in the major leagues, but he wasn't a major leaguer then. Johnny was 9, and Tommy and I were 7. And next door to their house was a vacant lot. And it was on that vacant lot that we played baseball morning, noon, and into the night. And a couple of years ago, Tom and I got to visiting. We hadn't seen each other in 10 years, and we were just reminiscing. And he says, "Have you seen that lot recently next to where we lived that we used to play baseball on?" I said, "Yeah, I have seen it, because for baseball romantic reasons I had driven by it." And he says, "How did we play baseball there? It was so tiny." And I said, "Well, Tommy, we were tiny too." I didn't get to play on the team until I was 11 years old. A lot was going on in my life. My parents had divorced. My mom and I moved to the north side of Lawton. And I got to play for the Taft Grade School Midget League team. We had a good team. In fact, we came to the middle of the season and we were undefeated. And we were going to play the Whittier grade school team, who was also undefeated. I don't know if my teammates felt this way, but I felt inferior to those Whittier people. I knew they had some real big houses over there close to that school, and I knew there wasn't any big houses close to where I lived. And I already figured out that some of those people around Whittier, they own businesses. But there wasn't any business-owning people coming to our games. I just felt less than. But I thought to myself, we'll show them who's best. We'll win this game. The game came. We were ready. We gave everything we had. We went into extra innings, and we lost. We were crushed. Some of my teammates were just bawling and crying, and oh, they were just hurting so bad, but I said, "You're not going to make me cry. No, sir, you're not going to make me cry." And that night, after I got into bed, and in the silence before sleep, the pain of losing that game just came all over me, and the tears and the sobs just rushed out of my body. It never felt good to lose a game. But I look back on that many years later and I realized that game was about more than baseball. A lot more. If you like baseball, in Oklahoma, you were a kid in the 50s, there was one player you wish you could be. But things aren't always as good as they appear. I was born in Oklahoma, 1931. Outside the town of Spavinaw, where the red dust clouds the sun. And I ran beneath your diamond skies, and I drank your waves of grain. My name is Mickey Mantle, boys, and baseball is my game. My father's name was Mutt Boys, and he worked down in the mines. And he pitched to me in the evening at least 1,000 times. 1,000 times again in my nightmares and my dreams. You're gonna live in the house that Ruth built, kid. You're gonna make that Yankee team. Sure enough, that Yankee scout came driving right down Route 66. He'd never come to my hometown, just too far in the sticks. But I happened to be playing in an old wood ballpark way out on the Mother Road. That Yankee scout, he saw me. He said, kid, you'll make the show. Strike one. There was the drinking. Strike two. There go the knees. And my old man had died in Denver. He had a lung disease. When God starts throwing change-ups, you can't swing with fame or wealth. If I'd have known I was gonna live this long, I'd taken better care of myself. When I was a junior in high school, the most beautiful thing happened. We were the 1959 Oklahoma Class 2A baseball state champion. It was like a beautiful dream had come true. But sometimes dreams become nightmares. Our third baseman was tough. He fielded balls with his glove, his chest, his arms. One time in the dressing room before a big game, he held his cup high in the air and then announced, "I'm going out to play third base." Successful optometrist and pilot. He retired, and the drinking got worse. I called one morning to tell him, I'm coming to Denver. I'm going to play in a senior softball tournament. His daughter answered the phone. And every time I asked about her dad, she gave the same response. Silence. Finally, I just yelled, "God damn it, just tell me!" You can't field alcohol like a grounder. The ball's just too damn hard. I don't miss the lights of Times Square. I don't miss Toots Shore's bar. I miss my old man pitching baseballs near the shed in our backyard. I wish that he were still around to see these trophies on my shelf. If I'd have known I was gonna live this long, I'd taken better care of myself. My 7th inning break is for Johnny Parrish. Johnny was our right fielder. He played because he was a good hitter. He did not play because of how he looked in right field. You see, when you're in the outfield and you've got to go chase after a ball, you just run natural like this and you put your hand out and you catch it. That's what Johnny did. Johnny would see a fly ball and he'd do like this. It's terrible. We talked to him. We tried to get him to change. He couldn't do it. Johnny hit 500 in the playoffs that year we won the state. In fact, he hit a triple and scored the winning run in the state semifinal game. And I always figured I owe Johnny a lot for me getting to play on that state championship team just because of how he hit in the playoffs. And it was a couple of years later that we saw how Johnny was going to have to live his life. You see, Johnny now lives in a group home in Duncan, Oklahoma. And he has to live every day of his life schizophrenia. About 15 years ago, I was playing in senior softball. Don't remember where it was. I'm a senior. But I do remember it was a close game, and it was late in the game, and I was on first, and there was a close play at second. I forgot I was 55 years old. Because you see, we don't slide much in senior softball. And we sure as hell don't slide head first. And that's what I did. And I thought about it later though, and it really wasn't a slide. It was more of a flop. But it did feel like I hit head first, because when I opened my eyes, my glasses were kind of goggling on my head like this, and I had scratched my nose, my chin, my stomach, and my knees. And I was out. So I get up and I go back to the dugout, and I'm sitting in the dugout, sitting on the bench, and my teammate, Jerry Deal, he walks up in front of me and he says, "Gale, I've seen a lot of things in my life, but that was the ugliest thing I have ever seen." And all I could do was just look up at him and say, "It felt ugly." First week last November, I happened to be around a very, very wise man. He looked like he was older than me, so I just asked him how old he was. He said he was 78. I said, "Well, I'm going to be 70 on the 23rd. And then I asked him, I said, 70 is kind of a milestone, isn't it? He said, "Yeah. Yeah, it is. Just don't let it be your tombstone." But you see, I've realized that I am in the last inning of my life. Now, I'm glad there's no time. It can be a long inning, but I am still in the last inning of my life. And the question that has come up for me is, how do I want to live the last of the ball game? And then I realized, oh, I know what to do. I get in the batter's box. I dig in, relax as much as I can. Remember to hold the bat, loosen my hands. I look out at the mound and I say, "Come on, pitch. Show me what you got. Come on, life. I'm ready."